Hi guys, Shauna Hall here, and I'm here to talk about the discussion thread of this week, Christianity and the American Revolution according to sacred scripture, sacred war, the Bible, and the American Revolution, specifically chapter 2, The Lord is a Man of War, Moses, the Exodus, and the Spirit of 76 by James P. Byrd. There were two essential questions that I kept seeing repeat throughout the chapter. Does God support war and destruction? And is there a correlation between the biblical story of Moses and the life of George Washington? Quite a few key points that kept arising was this idea of God intervening on behalf of his people. So divine providence, divine intervention, divine violence, divine assistance, and divine militancy. The historical analysis is really a compare and contrast analysis. The book of Exodus with the story of the American Revolution and the events of the American Revolution. The key players for Exodus is Moses. The key player for the American Revolution is George Washington. The people were the Israelites, and the American Revolution, the patriots. The bad guys in each story. In Exodus, it's Pharaoh, Ramses II, and the American Revolution, it was King George III. Back in Exodus, slaves of the Hebrews, the Hebrew people were the slaves, and in America, colonists felt abused and mistreated by the British Crown. Pharaoh's army was defeated at the Red Sea, and there were many patriot victories throughout the American Revolution. The theme was the same in both stories. God supports war and death to save his people. This idea that God is just and willing to save his people. Other historians' viewpoints on the book, one by Shalev. While the revolution may not have been a religious revolt, the Bible was a central channel for inspiring revolutionary sentiments. This historian's viewpoint is very similar to that of Byrd's. Throughout the story of Moses and Washington, there is this idea of divine intervention. God interferes on our behalf and divine providence. God has a purpose for everything, even if we do not understand it. Everything happens for a reason. In this case, God granted the power to these men that influenced historical events. There's some criticism for Byrd's book, and this is by Amanda Porterfield. And she points out that Byrd does not say much about the popularity of religion in the Revolutionary era or provide much evidence that soldiers or their supporters found sermons inspiring. Porterfield agrees there is a link between religion and war. Many of the founding fathers were open to the discussion of God and his role in the war. However, Byrd's focus is more about the historical connection between the book of Exodus and the American Revolution, and less centered around other Christian connections like the Great Awakening of that era. There's another author who wrote a book years before Byrd did, and that was Robert Hay, and he wrote George Washington, American Moses. He found some additional similarities that Byrd missed in his book. Moses was born in the fertile lands of Egypt. Washington was born in the fertile lands of Virginia. Moses' ancestors were from a distant land, a descendant of Jacob, who brought the Israelites to Egypt due to famine. Washington's ancestors were from a distant land, the Isle of Britain. Both of their mothers also saved them from horrible fates. So are these similarities a stretch, or are they accurate? One final thought about Christianity and the American Revolution. If we truly are linking the story of the American Revolution into the book of Exodus, then we should have ended slavery in the newly established United States, as the Israelites were the slaves in Moses' time period. The patriots were not the slaves in Washington's time period, even though they thought they were. Samuel Hopkins, an early abolitionist, condemned the blatant hypocrisy of holding slaves in bondage while demanding freedom from British rule in a letter that he wrote to the Continental Congress in 1776.